We're about to go live. Right, so allegedly we should now be live. Just give me 1 minute, and yeah, there we are. Right, so we are live, and sorry for the slight delay, people. And
technology,
you can see we're joined by Andy McCluskey. I'm just going to give it a minute just so people can get the live feed working before we actually go live. Okay, so I know we've got viewers on, and I'd just like to give a great big thank you, everybody, for joining us, and also for the many questions that we're going to get through in the next hour. So we're going to wrap this up, if we can, in an hour or so. So first of all, can I just give a really big thank you to Andy for taking time out tonight. It's the first time we've done this, for joining us. And I'm going to try and split this down into sort of a few sections and get through as many questions as we can. So Andy, just the first section I'm going to talk about is past recordings and gigs. And the first question I've got here is from somebody called Rosa Sola Caprio. And she says, do you remember your first performance, how you felt, and what were your first impressions after it?
Well, if we're talking about the first Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark performance, that would have been in October 1978. And it was nerve-wracking. It was exciting. We were daring to do something that we kind of promised ourselves to do. We played at Eric's Club, where we used to be regulars and members, going there and watching other bands and watching the Thursday night kind of, if you like, open mic things for local artists. And we supported a guy called John Dowie, who was a comedian. I think there was all of 30 people in the audience. And I think afterwards we were just pleased because we'd done it. We'd actually got up on stage, Paul and I, and played our songs our way without anybody else changing anything or having to compromise. And that was exciting, but that was all it was supposed to be honest. Little did we know that was going to be the beginning of a 42-plus year journey.
And what an amazing journey that's been. Next question is from somebody called Lorraine Moore. And she's asking, and this is going to seem like it was ages ago now with COVID, but what was your best memory from the last tour?
Oh, my gosh. I got to be honest, actually, I really enjoyed having my son's band MiG-15 with us. I used to watch them every night and was a very sort of I was a nervous father, then I was a proud father. I thought they were great, and the audiences seemed to really like them. And it was great to watch them coming off stage every night and just totally buzzing at how many people they played to and how well they'd been received. The tour was amazing. The thing kind of prosaically, but the thing I loved most about it was I was well. Because the previous tour 2 years ago, I'd been really ill, and it was one of the reasons why we stopped the meet and greets, because I just didn't want to have the extra pressure on of singing more, talking more, and meeting people. And to be honest, unfortunately, now that COVID's come along, I think it's reinforced my feeling that much as I love meeting people, the meet and greets at gigs actually are sadly an opportunity for me, the lead singer, to get other people's diseases. Sad thing to say, I know, but.
Indeed. So the next one here is from somebody called Richard James, and he wants to know, which producer, if any, have you enjoyed working with the most?
To be perfectly honest, I think we have enjoyed producing ourselves. When we have a clear idea and we know what we're doing, I think that's the best place to be. Stephen Hague and we banged our heads together quite a lot on the in the mid 80s, but I think that's partly because we didn't have some of the songs needed work and needed help, and they weren't as clearly thought out as they should and could have been. So, to be honest, actually, we liked working with ourselves as producer.
And there's nothing at all wrong with that. Coming on to a question from Brett Lees. Out of all of the thousands of shows you've performed, which one would you say is a standout show that you can remember?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, obviously things like the largest crowd we ever played to, which was in Barcelona in 1984 in June, where we played on the Piazza, and there was 250,000 people watching us. That was pretty amazing. And it was filmed, and the film has got lost. That would be so great to have that to still see. Obviously, the Pasadena Rose Bowl with Depeche Mode. I think, in many ways, actually, the first comeback gig in Dublin in 2007, when we came out on stage and we played Sealand, and frankly, we were crapping ourselves. We didn't know what people would think and whether they'd accept us. And so the look on the audience's faces as they became aware that, yes, we could still do it, it was going to be a great show, and us realizing that they were going to accept us back again, that concert just grew into just a love affair. And of course, that was the beginning of, what is now 13 years and counting of the band being reformed.
Incredible where time goes to. The next question is coming from a guy called Steve Webb, who's asking, out of all the albums, which one took the least amount of time to put together? That's either song or production-wise. Which was the least time-wise that you put together?
In terms of recording it, probably the first album, because we had it all written, and we created our own studio in Liverpool on the first floor of an old warehouse above the Curly Music and Hesse Music shops down the back of Stanley Street in Liverpool. And I think we built the studio in 2 weeks. It was pretty cobbled together, and we recorded the whole thing in 3 weeks and mixed it. I mean, it sounds pretty kind of like a garage recording, but that was the fastest one, because everything was already written, and we knew exactly what we were going to do, and we did it very quickly.
The most amazing thing with the first album, I still love it to bits because of its rawness and its juvenile years with OMD. Just a quick shout out to all the people that are watching and sending in comments over on Facebook and YouTube. We're doing pre-submitted questions, which I'm going to get through as quickly as we can. But just thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm sure Andy will give you all a wave as well.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Next question, Andy, is from Andrew Young, and he's jumped in 2 questions of sorts here. What's your favourite piece of old tech and your favourite piece of new tech?
My favourite piece of old tech is my old 1974 bass guitar, my Fender Jazz, which was the one I started playing in 1980, that I recorded all the early tracks on. That bass guitar played on Electricity and Enola Gay and Messages and Souvenir. I still have it. And it's grey and orange, actually, because it's got put back into its original 1980 livery when it was in the museum here in Liverpool last year when they had the exhibition on. So that would be my favourite old piece. And now, quite simply, it's the Pro Tools system. The Pro Tools system is amazing. In fact, I was sat there writing today just thinking, I couldn't have imagined when I was 19 having something like this and just sitting, everything's in the box, all these different synthesizers that I can use. And when you save it, it's still there. You come back next week and you go click, put up that version, and it's all there, which is just incredible. I love it to bits. So yeah, my old bass guitar would be the old one, and the Pro Tools would be the new one.
Excellent. So this sort of joins up with this next question from Vic Marion, who's asking, which is your current method / software choices for making demos on a laptop? So I'm assuming you're going to say Pro Tools?
Yeah, I mean, I don't use my laptop to write music. I have done occasionally. In fact, the view from here was written on my laptop when I was sitting in a hotel room in San Diego years ago. So that was the last time probably I wrote anything on the laptop. I have an old G5 Tower, which, in fact, I've now got 2 of them because I finally upgraded last year to the latest version of Pro Tools. I had a 10-year-old version of Pro Tools. I finally had to get it upgraded, but the new system with all of the all the new cards for the visuals and graphics and everything, I couldn't go back and load up the old songs. So I then had to go on eBay and buy another G5, and I've now got two separate systems, one running the old system and one running the new. And when I want to go back to an old song, I've got to call it up, look at everything, work out which ones are not going to play as plugins in the new one, and do screenshots and copies and make notes and then transfer it all over. It's a bit slow, but it's the only way I can do it because the two systems are completely standalone. They can't be joined together.
If it works, that's the main thing. So, talking of the last question, and your answer, this next one is from Arthur Kroonberg. On the Junk Culture Tour 1984, OMD used the Fairlight computer stroke synthesizers, where all the keyboards, were all the keyboard sounds pre-programmed in it, or did you do any programming?
A lot of the sounds in the Fairlight, they were samples. You know, that you had a great big, like 10.5-inch floppy disk that you slid in and loaded up. Frankly, I cannot believe that we took that thing out on the road because we only had one. We didn't have a backup. If that thing had crashed, we were screwed. We then also, I think, had the emulators, which we would copy sounds into. So we loaded up many of our old synth sounds. I think Paul may have still had the micro preset as well, and there may have been some of the old organs. But yeah, it was that was a sort of crossover. That was when we were still using some of the old stuff and some of the new technology loading in the old sounds. And I mean, now we're using Rolands. No, actually not. We're using Native Instruments now because the Rolands weren't future-proofed. And somebody had to go and strip out all of the live sounds and reload them into these Native Instruments, which was a very long job, and I'm glad I didn't have to do it.
The next question is coming from, and I'm going to say this name wrong, Robert Einst Feinston, which I know I've said wrong. I apologise for that. And
hopefully it's close enough.
So, do you still use any analog hardware synthesizers when recording?
No, we don't. I mean, since I upgraded now, I've got Mellotrons, Jupiters, Roland SH101s, Roland SH01s. Just about every analog keyboard we used to have is now in my Pro Tools, except, of course, for the Korg Micro Preset. They haven't modeled one of those, unsurprisingly, because it sounds crap.
Okay, I'm just going to nudge on to another category of questions.
I like the trees in the background, by the way, Neil.
It's wallpaper, so I love camping.
I assumed it was, yeah.
I can sit here in front of my log fire and, pretend I'm out in the forest, which I will be this time next week. I'm out of here.
I hope it goes well.
So just a change of sort of question direction now, just some other questions. So the next one is coming from Craig Martin. He's saying, Andy, do you sing along to OMD in your car when you're walking or cycling like the rest of us? If so, what's your favourite driving tune?
I don't listen to OMD in the car very much. I do. Do you know what? I love Punishment of Luxury. I keep listening to Punishment of Luxury. I don't sing along with it, I have to say. But I'm so massively proud of that Punishment of Luxury album. I think we did an unbelievably great job. I think that is right up there with the best albums we've ever done. I think that the sound of it was amazing that Paul created in the mix, and the songwriting was brilliant. It's a high benchmark. I know there's going to be a new album, and if I'm comparing it to Punishment of Luxury, I'm going to get frightened. But I think that the fact that we could still do something like that in our late 50s was pretty impressive. I do occasionally listen to the old albums just to kind of, because you go years and you forget what they actually sounded like. Because I'm so used to the live versions of songs now, I sometimes have to go back and listen to the recordings and go, oh, that's what we actually did in the studio. Okay.
Brilliant. It was funny. I've been doing a series of OMD fan interviews, and I did one last night with a guy called Frank, and he was saying how fantastic Punishment of Luxury was. That actually came up last night. Anyway, next question is from Deborah Hunter, and she's asking, what's your favourite OMD song?
Yeah, I used to cop out of this one by saying you can't pick your favourite child, but I would say, do you know what? If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Electricity, because it was the first song we ever wrote, and it was the first vinyl 7-inch that we'd made that I ever held in my own hands. I can remember being so inordinately proud and amazed that something we wrote when we were 16 had been made into a record. And so, for all sorts of lovely reasons, I still have the most amazing soft spot for that song. And we still play it, and I love it.
And I was going to say, Electricity, sort of on that encore, which generally it is, it rocks and it brings down the house. Yeah, what a fantastic song that is. Next question, Peter Kramer is asking, you're on a desert island. Which choice of only the first 4 albums, which one would you take?
If I had to take the first 4?
Yeah, one album off the first 4.
Probably Architecture and Morality.
Yeah, timeless. And coming in with the next question, which is from David Limbrick. Which song or songs from the OMD catalogue, if you could, would you like to re-record?
Yeah, I'm kind of ambivalent about the idea of re-recording things. I think, for better or for worse, once you've released something into the public domain, that is the definitive version. You know, we had some fun with Enola Gay last year, messing around, and we did a slowed down version, and we did a kind of extended version by going back to the master tracks, and that was fun to play with. But I think that's why when we play live, we play things exactly the way they were recorded. That's the way people remember them. Don't mess around with people's memories. Be respectful to it. So I wouldn't. There's nothing. I mean, if I had a chance, you know, we were talking about the first album, and sonically it's a bit naive. I wouldn't mind going back to the first album and just tidying it up a bit and making it sound a little less garagey and naive, but it is what it is.
And coming from Emma Smith, if you could have been in any other band, what band would you have loved to have been in?
Well, it's either Kraftwerk or Joy Division, but I'm not as good a bass player as Hooky. But I can't play keyboards very well to have been in Kraftwerk, and I can't play the drums like Carl and Wolfgang would have played. But yeah, I mean, Kraftwerk obviously would have been.
Brilliant. Yeah. And next question from Catherine Roombas. Lots of artists say that they've been inspired by OMD. Are you particularly proud of any other artists where OMD have been an inspiration that you're aware of?
Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but there have been quite a few, particularly over the last sort of 15 years. It's, yeah, how can you not be flattered when somebody says that they've been influenced or impressed or taken things from you, and because something that you did moved them so much that they wanted to, if not emulate it, but take what you did and put it into their own music. So it's an unbelievable experience to have people say that about you, and it never gets old.
Next question coming in is from Steve Quayle, who's asking, have you ever heard a song and thought, damn, I wish I'd written that? And if so, which song would that be?
I was listening to it yesterday on my iPhone. Your Silent Face by New Order. Great song. Love the sequencer on it. Love the simplicity of it. That song is stunning. Although a close second, actually, is Celebrate by Simple Minds. I love that song. Love that song. The bass playing, early Simple Minds bass playing was incredible. You know, I can't believe he's no longer in the band.
And another question now coming in from Mandy Calvert. She's asking, when we know now you have done various covers, but this is a question. If you could cover one song from another 80s band, which one would it be and why?
Yeah, I love early Simple Minds. I love, like Celebrate and Love Song, and possibly an early Simple Minds song. Although I've actually, without letting cat out the bag, because nobody will probably ever hear it, but I actually, when I was doing something for Rudy Esch for his Electric City book, I actually had a go at doing a cover version of Silver Cloud by La Dusseldorf, which was great fun. Kind of giving it an OMD treatment. I don't think anybody will ever hear it, but it exists.
Well, it's one of those that may end up in that archive and pop out in another 40 years' time. Coming on for a question from Rosemary and Morton. She says, we all know that you love Kraftwerk even. What's your favourite Kraftwerk track?
Europe Endless. I love the way it slides in with the sequencer, the simplicity of it, that soaring mini Moog melody, and just the lyrics, the conjure an image of traveling through Europe. When I was still a kid and I'd never been anywhere, the idea of real life and postcard views and promenades and avenues. Europe Endless is my favorite Kraftwerk song of all time, closely followed by Radioactivity.
Yeah. And question here from Steve Hogben. He's asking, which Beatles song do you wish you'd written?
We covered a Beatles song and it never got released. It was supposed to be for a charity album for mental health. It was a B-side called Thank You Girl. I'd a little girl, only a fool would doubt our love. We covered it. It's another one that's in the archive that nobody's heard.
There's going to be a good archive one day. And next question is coming from Jill Sterland. So this is coming from a post, a photograph that was posted up, I'm guessing it must be about 2 years ago, where you posted up a picture of many medicines out of a suitcase.
Oh, yeah.
And she's asking, do you really use all those medicines that were in that suitcase?
My lead singer's hypochondriac bag, yeah. Do you know what? The lads take the mickey out of me every year when I turn up with that suitcase with all of my stuff in it. And yet, who do they come to? Oh, I've got a sore throat. Oh, I've got Andy, have you got something in your bag? Of course I have. Yeah, it's mostly throat and voice stuff and all kinds of pastels and sprays and things. But yeah, there's things for my knees and things. Yeah, it's what, I damage myself on tour regularly and I need to patch myself up. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in the bag. Wish there was a new left knee, but there isn't one of those.
Thank you. I'm just trying to think back to some of those tabloid headlines back in Sugar Tax days. There was some interesting ones, wasn't there?
Yeah, they're all prescription drugs in the bag these days.
Next question, short and sharp question from Alison Miller. Do you have any regrets?
Loads. I think the biggest thing that influenced our career was in a negative way, which I regret, is that we signed a very bad deal when we were young. We were just happy to be able to make records and go on tour and be on telly, and it was just all amazing. And we didn't do it for the money, but because we were earning such a small amount of money, when Dazzle Ships came along and we didn't sell many records, and then we took some time to crawl back out of the hole. And all the touring we did in America cost us money. Trying to break America cost us a load of money. So it influenced our songwriting and the way we worked. Because we had no money, we constantly, our managers and accountants were saying, well, you're skint, you've got to make another album. So, and we wanted out by Christmas because there'll be more sales at Christmas. So we would, we'd go on tour and come home and suddenly, we'd have August to write a new album, and then it'd be into the studio, record it, get it out for Christmas. And we didn't give ourselves enough time. And I also regret at the end of the 80s that nobody took hold of us and just said, guys, take some time off, take 6 months off, take a year, just go and rest. If you've got enough money to live on, just hang on in there and just stop chasing yourselves. And the last thing you want to do is split up because you're tired and exhausted and skint. And we didn't have anybody who actually just took an overview and said to us, that's what you got to do. And I think is the biggest shame that ever happened. Obviously, we got back together again, and maybe the break didn't do us that bad in the long run. But I wish we'd had more money so we didn't have to be constantly cranking out records because we had nothing. And having a management company who would have said to us, if you can, just stop, just rest, take some time. Well, that didn't happen, but it is what it is.
Regrets, we've had a few. Just once again, just a big shout out to everybody that's online watching us on Facebook and YouTube. There's lots of questions coming in there. Unfortunately, the questions I'm asking have been pre-submitted, but we are getting a handle of everybody that's on there. So hi, everybody, for tuning in.
Keep a list of them and we'll do it again.
We'll do it again. Right. I will get Antia to do this. She's my little secretary. So next one coming in is from Kareen Thyra. Yeah, Thyra. Hoping and assuming that you like classical music, do you have a favourite piece of classical music that have been an influence on your journey with OMD?
Mm-hmm. Lark Ascending by Ralph Vaughan Williams is in the key of D major, and it has this suspended airy chord at the start before the violin comes in. And I copied that and tried to create that suspended airy chord for the beginning of Ghost Star. There you go. There's a secret out the bag.
And Ghost Star, that's right there with Sealand. People make a big comparison. Okay, so we're just about half an hour in, and I'm just going to just change some of the categories again. So this question is coming from Thea Love, and she's asking, if you could travel back in time to any point in history, where would you go and why?
Well, I used to want to be an archaeologist when I was younger. My particular interest was actually kind of post-Roman and pre-Middle Ages. So I like kind of Saxon, Viking, early Norman, basic Saxon and Viking, what they used to call the Dark Ages. That I think fascinated me. I would love to go back, although I'd love to have an Iron Age roundhouse in the garden. If anybody's watching who knows how to build one, come on down to my house. I've always been fascinated in wanting to go back. Do you know what? I want to see how the real people lived. I'm not interested in history about kings and queens and lords and ladies and battles and big houses. I want to know how the real people live, what it was really like to be a peasant, to live in a wattle and door little shack, with the animals down one end and you and your family down the other end, and a hearth in the middle and everybody huddled around it. I would love to see what it was really like to live in those days.
Okay, so anybody's up for building roundhouses and things in Andy's back garden? Next question is from Ian Charlton. A little bit complex, this. It touches down on something you said a few minutes ago. Do you think if the band had stayed together, throughout the late 80s and into the 90s, instead of splitting, so in other words, if you had that maybe rest place, do you think the band would have stayed together?
There would have been a much better chance of it, absolutely, yeah. There was a lot of politics going on. That there were, Paul and I were always very different, and musically we could see that we weren't going in what we thought was the right direction at the end of the 80s, but our solutions were different. Paul wanted to go one direction, I wanted to go another. Malcolm and Martin had got fed up of just being side people on wages, and they wanted to be more involved in the songwriting and the creative part of it. We even had the Weir brothers chipping in. there were a lot of people pulling the band in different directions, and I think it was it was sad that what happened. Had we continued into the 90s, I don't know. Would Paul have wanted to do something that sounded like the Sugar Tax album? I don't know. I know he likes Sailing on the Seven Seas. He's not a huge fan of Pandora's Box.
Okay, so question is...
Yes, folks, I'm being honest here.
Well, we are trying to throw some different questions to you than the run-the-mill questions. And I say these are all questions coming from fans. So, they're not the regular mill questions. So, Stephen Rudge, Andy, would you consider going back, writing songs and producing for other bands? And would you ever consider creating a band again?
Hell no. There was something quite exciting about working in a different formula. You know, when I was working with Atomic Kitten, it was quite nice to not have the constraints of lugging around the OMD catalogue on my back, and we were trying something new, and without Stuart I couldn't have done it, to be honest, because Stuart's understanding of music theory and his ability to do harmonies was incredible. I can't really do harmonies very easily at all, so he was remarkable. But no, that was hard work, working for and with other people. No, I would much rather do our own music, and it's been great since we reformed. I don't regret doing the other things I did, but I'm so happy that we're now kind of masters of our own destiny again.
Yeah. Next question is from Sarah Lee Walton. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, Sarah Lee, artist lady.
If you had the chance to be cast in a movie, what would it be, and who would you like to play?
Ooh. Yeah, I'd probably kind of, having said I'm not into kings and queens and things, I probably, you want to be a main character if you're in a movie, don't you? So probably, somebody like, William the Conqueror in a Battle of Hastings movie or something like that. Yeah, I think so. I'm not really into classical Roman and Greek and Egyptian. I mean, I respect it, I admire it, but I think I'm too much of a scruff bag. That's why I like the Dark Ages, But who would I be in a movie? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Charles Darwin. How about that? I wouldn't mind being Charles Darwin in a movie.
Charles Darwin would do. I was played an extra in 4 scenes for a TV series coming up, Cobra. Look out for it. I'm playing the Conservative MP.
You're playing a Conservative MP?
Oh, there.
Can't believe that. That wasn't exactly typecasting, was it?
Oh, right. Wilma Maisten, grant you one wish. What do you wish for?
Me.
You.
Continued good health for many years to come, because I really enjoy playing live, and I want to continue to tour well into my 70s.
Okay. Yeah, I think obviously we're both of a similar sort of age, and health is, don't ever underestimate how good that is. Mm-hmm. David Eves, he's so we're just going to go on to another section. As I say, we're just coming in and watching the time. The remasters you've done have all been great. The last one, Junk Culture, being the best compiled of all so far. When will we get a next one, sort of Crush or Pacific Age?
There are going to be some remastered vinyl reissues this year, actually. Actually, we're doing we're doing Universal and Liberator because Universal actually did some research and they found out that those are the most requested in vinyl shops and things, which is strange. We will get to everything. How many unreleased tracks there are to add to extend the extend the remastered collection, I don't know, because I think, to be honest, I think Paul went back into the archives for the 40th anniversary collection. I think we probably just about used everything up.
So it's quite interesting because Universal is quite a holy grail for fans. I don't know whether you've seen the price of that on vinyl. It's quite astronomical.
That's probably why the record company wants to re-release it, and they've done a lot of really good work in trying to get the sound better and match the sleeves exactly. I mean, we are sticklers for trying to get the sleeves exactly right. And it's quite interesting to go back and do that. And I mean, because the new heavy vinyls that are cut at half speed sound incredible compared to the mass-produced thin vinyl from 20, 30 years, 40 years ago.
I absolutely adore Universal. A lot of fans absolutely hate it, but I think Universal has got some absolute classics on it, and it's quite a Marmite album with fans. Another question coming from Barry Collins. We've got a really poor record regarding the Eurovision Song Contest. Would you
No.
Would you do it?
No, the chance of being humiliated is so great that no, the idea of Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark null point would be horrifying. No, the problem with Eurovision is, though, people are not voting with their ears; they're voting with their politics. The same countries always give 12 points to the other same countries that they're politically aligned with. It's not really a song contest anymore. It's a political backslapping fest. I used to enjoy watching it for a giggle. Now I just want to throw my shoe at the TV.
I don't think I've watched that for decades. Okay, so the next question, I'm going to sidetrack back to some topics which sort of touches down on this one. It's a two question from two people. So John Grant is asking, have you ever been approached to do any celebrity reality shows like I'm a Celebrity or Strictly? And then a supplement question to that is for Amanda's, who's one of our moderators, and saying, do you think that programs like The Voice, X Factor are ruining the music industry with unrealistic expectations and not giving the artist the groundwork to succeed and then trying to get a contract?
I don't think I'd ever do a celebrity reality TV show. It's just not something that really interests me. And I'm busy doing OMD. I'm not. I've got a band. I've got a career. I don't need to restart it. It's doing very nicely, thank you. So I'm not going to complain about that. Sorry, what was the second question again?
It was coming in from Amanda. So she was sort of asking, do you think that programs like The Voice?
Oh, yeah.
The music industry and giving false expectations.
I mean, what they really do is they appeal to people who have a talented voice. They've got an instrument, but those people do not write their own songs. They don't play an instrument usually. They're not in a band. So, the music industry has always had people who were gifted presenters of a song, but to me, for every 10,000 people that can sing a song well, there's only one person can write it, and I'm more interested in writing.
I mean, Saturday night's become karaoke night.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch any of it. Next question from Paul Adlington. What's the most bizarre thing you've ever been asked to do when you've appeared on television?
Oh Christ, we've done some shit TV. Making traffic like sandwiches with Timmy Mallet on a Saturday morning TV show. Dancing round a car, not playing any instruments, singing Tesla Girls. That was excruciating. The worst one, the weirdest one, was in Italy. Paul and I doing an interview for Italian TV, giving the answers in Italian to an empty chair because the interviewer wasn't even there. And it was excruciating, and we were trying to like phonetically pronounce this Italian, reading these cards really badly. And at the end of it, we just had to go, "Ciao, Simandi." The presenter's name was Simandi, who wasn't even there. So whenever Paul and I subsequently found ourselves in an excruciatingly embarrassing moment, we'd look at each other and go, "Well, this is a total freaking ciao, Simandi, isn't it?"
So some information for you. When you were on Top of the Pops dancing around that car...
It wasn't Top of the Pops. It was a Saturday morning kids' TV show.
That's the one. Okay. It was a Vauxhall Forenza. And that Forenza is actually being rebuilt at the moment. The actual exact one. And I used to rally drive a Vauxhall Forenza.
How the hell do you know that specific car is being You're such an anorak, Neil.
I will get you a link. I will get
no,
you a link.
I don't want to see it ever again. It reminds me of being excruciatingly embarrassed.
We need to see you dancing around the rebuilt Vauxhall Forenza.
Neil, look at your screen. Right. That's your answer.
2 times. Nilesh Govil wants to ask a question. Does anyone in OMD play chess seriously? So he's referring obviously to the Joan of Arc video, and then international, like a pawn in the game, hard to take.
Mm-hmm. We don't. None of us play chess. It's not something we've ever done. And I've had people actually say to me, but a pawn in a game of chess is the easiest piece to take. And I said, no. It's like a pawn in a game, full stop, hard to take. It's hard to take being a pawn in a game. It's hard to tolerate being a pawn in a game. That was what I was trying to say, but it's often misinterpreted as being, but that's the easiest piece to take in a chess game.
Okay, and we've got a question here from Cheryl Anderson. She's curious to know, what's your favourite book or books?
I'm a big fan of *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari. I've got more into audiobooks in the last few years. So Jared Diamond's Third Chimpanzee is great. I'm really fascinated with the origin story of the human species. So anything like that, origin story, *Sapiens*, Third Chimpanzee, Germs, Guns, Steel, anything like that, anything that's about evolution. And I had dreams once when I was a kid, but sort of along with my archaeological thing of being a paleoanthropologist. I was interested in all the different hominins that have come along from, I've forgotten the word now. But yeah, so through Neanderthals and Homo erectus and habilis and do you know what? Anthropithecus, yes. There's a song on the new album called Anthropocene. I was going to say Anthropocene, but no, that's not the right word.
Indeed, we're going to touch down on some of the new stuff, and I can remember you telling me the story about this a few years ago. So that idea you've had has definitely been around for some years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on a song called Anthropocene for several years, and last year Paul sent me a piece of music, and I just suddenly went, oh my God, I've done 3 different versions of this song and it doesn't carry the vocals. It's got text-to-speak vocals on it, like Isotype, but I'm also singing on it as well. And Paul sent me this piece of music and I just went, that's it. That is the backing track to Anthropocene. So I've been working on that for the last 9 months. Yeah, I've been making an album for the last 9 months, and Paul's been making babies. And
congratulations to Paul.
Indeed, and Ruta, and little Lily.
and we'll come over to the new stuff shortly. We've got another 15 minutes to go here. Question from Chloe Moran, and she's asking, where did you used to bevy in town? And for those people listening, the word bevy is slang for drink.
Really, whenever we came into Liverpool, into town, we went to Eric's club. We went to Eric's at least once a week. So Eric's would be the place where we would be drinking. When we were in town, usually we tended not to really go out much in town, other than to go and see gigs in the early days at Eric's. I would, we had our studio there, and we'd work 5 or 6 days a week in town, but then I'd go home. Usually used to drink in the Wirral Peninsula, used to drink in the White Lion in West Kirby and the Ring of Bells in West Kirby. They were the two that and they still exist as pubs, for those who know the Wirral Peninsula. And but when I don't go bevying now, I don't go to clubs and things. If I go into town, I go to restaurants like Mowgli or Salthouse Tapas or Bacaro. I just go for a nice dinner, not bevying.
I love that saying, bevying. You don't hear that often. Andy,
get bevied up, la.
Andy Evans wants to ask you, have you ever seen a UFO?
No, I don't believe I ever have. I've seen some interesting things on TV. There's been some revelations recently of stuff that's been declassified about things that have been happening that Navy fighter planes have seen out over the Pacific. But I have never myself believe I've ever seen a UFO, no.
Okay, and just coming on to some of the more recent things that are going on with OMD. So Stephen Cork is asking, do you have any collaborations or projects in the pipe?
We have been doing some work with Uwe Schmidt, the Atom TM. Big fans of Atom TM. We met him in Santiago 3 years ago, and we said, "Hey, would you do some remixing work or stuff with us, because we're struggling to sound terribly contemporary, and we love what you do with your glitch and your music." And he was actually surprised that we knew his music. He brought some CDs to give us, and we were like, "We know your stuff." "Oh, you know my stuff." So and he showed us a picture of him in his bedroom when he was 14 with the same poster I've got in my programming room of us playing Frankfurt in the Architectural Morality tour. So yeah, we're doing a little bit of work on the new album with Atom TM, which is sounding very cool.
Excellent. And coming up to some things that we've sort of touched down on. So we've now got the album name, and I think you said on the last Twitter party that you've got 8 tracks ready. How's the new album coming along? How many tracks are going to be on it? And do you have a sort of timeline? That question was instigated by Gary Dorr. So thank you, Gary, for sending that question in.
Yeah, I just wrote another one last 5 days, which I think is a candidate to go on the album. You have to live with things for a little while till you're really sure about the quality. But I work pretty much every day, and as long as Paul can multitask later this year and manage to mix whilst bottle feeding and changing nappies, then I don't see why there couldn't be a new album out early next year.
Great stuff. And a question from Elizabeth Evangelista. When can we get or expect to hear any snippets or samples from any new OMD music?
You see, I would quite like to do some little teaser drops of 15 seconds of a demo or something, but I think our manager is against that. But I might twist her arm and see what Morel says, because I think it would be quite nice to. I mean, there are some tracks that are definitely on the album. They're in my computer at the moment, and I can't mix. Paul, when he gets them into his computer in his studio, will open them up and they'll sonically become much better. But but the basics are there. I just, renowned for not being able to mix my way out of a wet paper bag. I can have a good clear picture of the overview, but the sonic detail is Mr. Humphreys.
And a question from Eloisa, who you sort of know as one of our moderators. And she's asking, is Bauhaus Staircase going to be the next OMD single?
I don't know what the next OMD single is going to be, but Bauhaus Staircase is definitely on the album. It sounds absolutely kicking. I sent it to Humphreys to see if he can fit a melody on it. It would be good that I've left him a nice clear section to fit a melody on, and if he does, it might change the arrangement. But it's it's great. It's lots of analog synths, 808 drums. It sounds very old school, and I'm really excited about it.
Lots to look forward to. Mm-hmm. Question coming in from
I want to kiss on a Bauhaus staircase.
Carry on.
There you go. That's all you're going to get.
we got a 2-second sample. Thanks, Andy. Quick question here from Helga Sandmeyer. Is there anything planned? Now, obviously, the whole year we've just gone through has been terrible with everything that's happened. We're coming out of this now, and obviously it's been great to see festivals being announced, tour being announced, and new dates being scheduled. So we know that on the OMD website, all the updates are there, and let's hope we can get back to some normality. But Helga is asking, is there anything planned except for the festival and tour dates that we already know?
I'm hoping that we don't lose the early festivals to next year. Some of the June festivals have already had to be rescheduled for September. Got my fingers crossed that if you've got your vaccine passport, you might be able to get into festivals later on in the summer. It's going to get very condensed. We're trying to put everything together that was being postponed. Yes, there's stuff next year. We want to go back to South America. We wanted to go back to South Africa. We are definitely going to be touring North America again. And obviously we're looking forward to right at the end of this year getting down to Australia and New Zealand for the first time in a million years. So yeah, there's going to be plenty, and then then there'll have to be an Anthropocene album tour as well to fit in somewhere.
I'm never going to be able to say that album name. I just know I'm not going to be able to say that.
Go on. What was it again, Neil?
Our next question was talking about Australia, which touches down perfectly from Richard Gordon.
Shall I call the album Bauhaus Staircase just for you? Is that easier?
Easier, much easier.
I'll have a word with Paul, see what he thinks.
If you do go out to Australia later this year, which obviously that is now scheduled and planned to do, he's asking, could you do a full set instead of just a 1-hour set, even if you had to start earlier?
I think with fitting 2 bands on, and Simple Minds seem to make 12 songs last about 3 hours on stage. So I think we will probably just be doing. This is a way of reintroducing ourselves to Australia. We're going to go out there and hit them between the eyes with all the hits. I know that the deep fans will want some of the more, alternative stuff, but I think this is just a reintroduction. Get out there, remind people of what we did, and then hopefully open up some doors to go back again soon.
And a question here from Milcent Bystander. What question have you always been wanted to be asked, but nobody's ever asked you?
Bloody hell. I mean, I've been asked just about everything. Off the top of my head, you know what? I seldom get stumped for an answer. I don't think I've got an answer to that one. Well done. You've asked me a question I cannot find an answer to, because there isn't a question I want to be asked.
And so we're coming up to the hour now, so we're sort of another 5 minutes on this one. One from Del Bennett. He's asking, would you ever consider doing an album along the lines of the Human League Unlimited Orchestra, which you may not have heard of, or an album of new songs being orchestrated only? And it was a bit bizarre, this, because I went in my CD collection and I've got on vinyl this album he's referring to, but I found a CD from it as well. So this was like an orchestra version of the sort of Dare album.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you know, we've played with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra, and that was a great experience. I like doing it live. That we have released recordings from those concerts, and I'm sure we will play with them again. I mean, the last two concerts we played were just amazing. Although again, it was seat of the pants. Paul and I were absolutely bricking ourselves on stage because these guys were reading the sheet music. We were having to count bars in our heads. On new arrangements that weren't the ones we're used to on stage normally. So, it was terrifying, but really rewarding. We will do that again. I'm not sure that there'll be a standalone orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark album.
Okay, and Steve Dean is asking, would you ever do Glastonbury given the chance?
Hell yes, absolutely.
So we're just going to sort of wind it down a little bit now. And just a little bit of something sadness that some people won't be aware of, but the tragic death of Hamby with COVID was certainly for myself. It was sobering to say, but the least. And what a horrible year it's been. How have you been coping yourself in the last year with your mental health and well-being and exercise?
I'm very fortunate. I've got a big garden. I live out in the countryside. I could go out and stay away from people. I was out cycling last year. I've just started cycling again now. I was out both Saturday, Sunday mornings. I went for a 2-hour walk again today. I've got a few pounds around the middle to lose before we start doing gigs. I think because I've had things to do, because I've been writing music, it's kept me in a pretty safe place mentally. I know for an awful lot, I think particularly for young adults, it's been incredibly hard. They've left school, but they haven't yet really made a clear career path for themselves in life. And I think they just feel like they've been purgatory. I think that those people have really suffered. I mean, a lot of people have suffered. I mean, would I want to be a single mother with 4 kids under the age of 10 living on the 20th story of a council block? Hell no. It's been hard for an awful lot of people. And I think we can see some light at the end of the tunnel. They're being very careful about letting us out of this lockdown because they can't have a 4th one. People won't accept a 4th one, I don't think. So, if there's something good come out of it for me, it means, there's going to be an Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark album. Obviously, Paul's been busy creating something else just as beautiful. And although I think his work was probably over in a few seconds, his wife's done most of the hard work. But I think, I just think it's, if anything, it's just made us realize that, normal wasn't that bad, was it, actually? You don't know what you got till it's gone. And I think everybody's screaming to just get out and meet people and have some live music again. And that's what I want. I know my son's band are frustrated as hell because they haven't been able to do anything for a year just when they were starting to get going. So, yeah. I mean, I had COVID. I had it mildly. I had COVID just a week after Hamby contracted it, and he never came out of ICU. So, it just goes to show what a lottery this is in terms of your personal health, your genetics. It's been the strangest time I've ever really lived through, I think.
The one thing that COVID brought us, and this time last year you would never have in a million years believed this would happen, were the Tim's Twitter parties. And what an amazing bit of fun and success they've been. We've got another one coming up with the first album. Mm-hmm. But what's been your thoughts on doing the Twitter parties?
Do you know what I was asked earlier about listening to old albums? I mean, it's made me go back and listen to a whole album and to actually have to write down, anecdotes and stories and recollections about the time it was created, my mindset, and all of the different songs and the reasons for them and why they were written, and it's been quite interesting. It's reacquainted me with with some of these songs that I wouldn't normally listen to, and for the most part, it's made me feel very proud of what we've done, and it's been great to share them, listening to them along with everybody else and tweeting away. I've enjoyed it. I think maybe one more, and then hopefully we're all going to be coming out of lockdown.
And are you looking forward to getting back on the road and getting back to doing live concerts again?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the longest I've gone now since the band reformed, not playing live. It's the same for all of us, So very much looking forward to it. It's been just weird. When you haven't played for over a year, even when we haven't played for 4 or 5 months or something, we tend to be a bit, oh my God, are we going to remember it? How's it going to go? Because we go into the rehearsal room and we go, right, okay, and it's just like we go through the whole set and we go, okay, it's still in there. In fact, actually, it's usually the second and the third rehearsal where we start forgetting things. The first time in, it's all there. It just don't think about it. It's in the back of your head. But no, I think it's just the getting used to going back on the road again, traveling, touring, getting my voice toughened up, because I don't sing when I'm not on the road. So I've got to get that muscle worked up again and toughen it up a bit, so that I'm not just I can't hit the ground running. I've got to actually get my vocal cords and my vocals toughened up, ready to sing every night.
Okay, so we're going to start winding down now, and can I just give a big shout out and a big thank you to Antia, Eloisa, Manders and Dave, who helped look after the OMD fan Facebook group. Guys, you're brilliant, absolutely amazing. And we're about to, in the next day or so, hit 14,500 members over there. So just a big thank you to those.
And Neil, but before we jump off, thank you for doing this and organising this. It's I know you've got other things to do, but like be a Tory MP for film and things like that. But thank you for arranging this. Because I know people do appreciate being. I mean, these are intimate. It's like the Twitter things. They're intimate little moments where you get to talk to people and answer their questions directly. And so, thanks for hosting.
You're more than welcome, and I'm going to become a granddad in July. You don't know that, so
is this going to be your first grandchild?
My first grandchild, yeah.
I'm wondering when that might happen to me.
A quick shout out to our viewers that are watching. On Wednesday, we're doing a live with Tiny Magnetic Pets. So Andy, you can tune in if you want to. So we're doing that on Wednesday, scheduled for 7:30. That will be announced. And Andy, do you think you and Paul may be up to do another one of these question and fan sessions live like this?
Absolutely. I mean, if Paul can demonstrate his nappy changing technique live on Facebook, it'll be great. I will ask Paul. He tends not to do these things. If he can avoid being interviewed, he will avoid being interviewed. He's almost as camera shy as Malcolm and Martin used to be. But I'll ask him. See what he says. I can't promise anything. Can't speak for Humphreys. He's quite reclusive now. He lives in France.
Yes, indeed. So there was. One of the other questions was, would you ever go and live in France? The other recluse that's quite hard to get an interview from, and I did ask him last year, was Martin. So squeeze Martin's arm, because I'm sure
you won't get no. Martin hates being interviewed. Martin's just. I mean, listen. I've walked over to him on stage occasionally with a microphone and go, say something. Afterwards, he just said, don't you ever do that to me again. So no, Martin. The sad thing is, Martin is a great singer, and he used to sing backing vocals on stage, and he just won't do it. And Stuart sings as well. All four of us could sing on stage, but they won't do it.
Never say never. You never know.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to wind it down. And can I just say, again, a big thank you to everybody that's been sort of tuned in there tonight. I've had hundreds and hundreds of other questions that have been coming in on a feed.
Sorry, we can't. I mean, listen. Maybe before we get out of lockdown, finally, maybe in May or something, we can do one more of these, catch up on the other questions that have come in, and we might have a few more answers and a few more specifics then. I can't promise, Paul. Martin definitely no, but let's do this. I appreciate. I mean, can I just say before I go, a huge thank you to everybody who signed up for the Yumi and OMD gig and suffered the disappointment of it not happening in October, and then the disappointment of it being postponed again, because the fact that every single person held on to their kind of virtual ticket and left the money in the kitty allowed us to actually give money to our crew before Christmas, because we knew it was still there. So I just want to say thank you so much to all of you who subscribed to that. It is now going to definitely happen, and I know how much our crew were touched by how much money was being raised, that people were buying into this idea, and the fact that we were doing it for them, because many of these guys have been with us. They're like family. And we, without them, there is no gig. There's 4 of us on stage that you see, and you occasionally see Merv or Danny D coming on to do the backline. But all the other people, right down to the truck drivers and the caterers, without them, one link in the chain breaks and there's no gig. So these people are important, and thank you for supporting us in helping support them. And Neil, thank you. I'm going to head off and go and eat myself some crispy duck and pancakes now.
Enjoy it. Thank you again, Andy McCluskey. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Till the next time, we'll see you soon. Goodbye,
Bye,
everybody.
all. Thank you for your questions.